As you can read in the caption above, we're a family of 6 going on 7 living in a 1-bedroom apartment. Generally, the instant judgment me and my husband receive, why have so many kids if you don't have enough space for them?
He hasn't paid child support, but he has a PS5. I feel bad for those kids that they have to sleep on the floor. And that man has not changed. You sacrifice for your kids. You don't put your kids on the floor. His priorities were messed up, and that's why we never worked the fuck out.
And people say, yes, get a W-2. I would love to get a W-2 that paid me decent.
Why does it just got to be about the pay? Why does nobody consider the health aspect? That most of these W-2 jobs are sucking the life out of you. There's this impression that I don't want better for the children, which doesn't make any sense to me. That's all I want is better for our kids.
I wake up and choose miserable every day, and then you turn around and blame other people for it. What the fuck? I thought we were the creator of our own destiny, okay? But bye now.
I decided this week we could take a little break. Consider this your 30-minute rest break from digging into old internet topics. It's time for something fresh. Realistically, I just figured that I am going to burn out making like a documentary length yappy video every single week. It was just getting a little, I was dreading writing the next script, and I was like, let's just not do that then. That's the fun thing about YouTube, is you can do whatever you want. So I thought maybe a shorter video this week won't kill anyone. And that's why I'm coming to you today to correct my thoughts on the Jenkins Resilience crew, which they have dubbed themselves on TikTok. Also known in my brain as Justice Crew, the Australian boy band. Everybody go boom, boom, boom. And the reason I say that I'm here to correct my thoughts on the Jenkins family is because I've actually covered the Jenkins family twice on this channel now. And listen, I'll admit it, I can be forgiving to a fault sometimes. I just like to believe that generally people have good intentions, but sometimes they just don't have the tools that they need in order to act on those good intentions properly. So I tend to give people a lot of leeway. When someone makes like a mistake or a poor choice in life, I see it as a learning opportunity, a chance to grow. And I don't want to demonize someone for struggling. Everyone struggles. And I mean, sometimes you gotta slide down the mountain before you can climb up and reach the peak, right? But now it's been like 5 months since the Resilient Jenkins went viral, and I have given them a chance. And it's gotten to the point now that I am judging, because I am starting to doubt that they do have good intentions. And honestly, they're only getting worse, if that was even possible. And if you're like sitting here and you're like, girlfriend, that's great and all, but I actually genuinely don't know who on earth you're talking about, then that's awesome. Congratulations to you, but I am going to ruin that piece for you today. So I'll try to break down this situation relatively quickly so we can get into the actual meat of this discussion. I'm gonna break it down like Ray Gun doing the kangaroo, okay? It's gonna be efficient, it's gonna be eye-catching, and it's gonna leave you questioning what you just watched, and I promise you that. So essentially, the Resilient Jenkins family is comprised of the mother, Stephanie, the father, Drew, and their 3 girls and 2 boys. And they're not actually the Resilient Jenkins family, because for one, none of their first names is Resilient, so that's full of it, you know what I mean? But then more importantly, as far as, you know, the actual storyline of this goes, Stephanie and her 2 daughters, or I guess now 2 of her daughters, are not legally Jenkins. Drew and Stephanie are not married, and they actually created a blended family when they met in 2022. At that time, in 2022, Stephanie was living in her mother's house with her daughters, I think, and Drew was living in a 1-bedroom apartment that was like state provided with his son, or one of his sons. We will get to the details. So very shortly after they got together, it seems, Drew and Stephanie chose to combine their lives. But don't get it twisted, they did not, you know, find a new apartment together. What do you think they were gonna do? Work as a team? Benefit their children? No. Stephanie moved her 2 girls and her like 3 cats into Drew's 1-bedroom apartment. And honestly, you know, what could go wrong? 5 people and 3 cats in a 1-bedroom apartment. That's not like overcrowded or anything, is it? Hey, that's fine, right? And this whole time since probably like the beginning of 2022, Stephanie had been posting on TikTok full time, just absolutely pushing full force for virality. She was reaching for the stars, okay? But Stephanie's drive to make social media her full-time career, like actual paid full-time career, was not entirely reflected in her content, I will say. Pretty much her videos they were consistently mediocre quality, and they didn't really have any rhyme or reason to them. Just to paint you the picture, like Stephanie would post rants, she'd post videos of her beloved cats, dance videos here and there, just general thoughts, and some videos about her kids. She did attempt to slot into the homesteading niche at some point in like 2022, although again, she didn't really make an effort to stick to that or to make like bangers for the algorithm. So those videos were still not aligned with someone who had been making videos consistently for like a year or two and was hoping to be a professional. They were just kind of like videos, like your average videos. They were what you'd expect to see from someone who was maybe like using the app for fun, or someone who used the app to share with the internet what they probably should just be sharing with their best friend, you know what I mean? That was the energy in the studio. And this sort of like chaos on Stephanie's TikTok account, it continued until one fateful day in 2024, when Stephanie realized that using her kids and their life of struggle as a ploy to beg for views and money and gifts, it just worked like a charm. And because of this realization, the Resilient Jenkins TikTok account finally went viral around October 2024 for all the wrong reasons though. Like all the reasons you wouldn't want to have attention on you, that's why they had attention on them. Because their account, right, it caught people's eyes not because they thought, oh, what a lovely family or what an awesome mother, but because, the kids didn't have beds. They were all sleeping on mattresses. Some of them were literally just like foam pads on the floor in the living room, right next to the kitchen, because remember, this is like a 1-bedroom apartment. But then viewers noticed, the parents did have a bed. They actually had the whole bedroom to themselves, and it was decked out with like a flat screen TV and a PS5 and those fucking TikTok live stream lights that we've all seen in bedrooms now before. And people, they only became further engrossed in their content when they realized that these parents that were like struggling, making life work in a 1-bedroom apartment with however many kids they had, too many kids, didn't actually work. And they, in fact, refused to take on any W-2 jobs, as they called them, W-2s, to support their family. But they were happy to spend their free time, which was most of their time, complaining to anyone that would listen on the internet about how hard life is when you're poor, because they refused to work. And people just generally found themselves worried about the fact that the kids didn't seem like they were being prioritized in the Jenkins family. Like, yes, the kids had the bare minimum. They were fed, they were sheltered, they were loved. But it didn't seem like their care was of like the utmost importance to the Jenkins parents. They seemed to prefer to focus on like gaming, ranting online, and doing drugs, possibly, allegedly, in their nice, cushy bedroom. And I haven't even mentioned the public outcry yet that happened when the mother of Drew's first son, Arleta, came to the platform TikTok to speak out about him. Because everyone at this point thought that Drew had one child, and it was the child that was living with him in that 1-bedroom apartment. No. He had another son, a 12-year-old son, that he was like, who? I can't remember. Did I have him? So Arleta, this child's mother, said that Drew was an absent father, always had been, and that he'd been dodging child support for years. She said she didn't even know where he was until Stephanie started blasting their business all over TikTok, which I guess things worked out. Silver lining to every cloud. On top of like the already dire situation involving 3 kids and a toddler at this time in like 2024, Drew and Stephanie had another child on the way, and this wasn't like an accident, by the way. It's not like, oh, these things happen. They were like, Stephanie wants a bunch of kids. They were trying to conceive. And internet users, of course, are people with hearts, and so they felt so concerned for the Jenkins kids that they went out of their way to buy gifts off of Stephanie's Amazon wish list for the kids, which is how they finally ended up having fucking their own beds, and also how Drew ended up having a nice new pair of socks, how the house ended up having this and that and the other thing, yeah. But either way, internet users were also sickened, and they weren't shy, right? They voiced all of the ways that they felt like Stephanie and Drew were failing their poor kids. They were trying to push the Jenkins parents to do better and be better, and they weren't exactly like gentle about it. Although this is kind of like a double-edged sword, because obviously when you're pushing people to do better and be better, but you're only watching them because they're not better and they're not doing better, that means you're giving them money essentially for not doing better, you know what I mean? So well-intentioned, but maybe not with the most ideal results. But either way, it wasn't even, to be fair, just like anonymous comments reaching out about their situation. People on TikTok and YouTube alike, they were putting their faces behind this. They were coming to these platforms to start a conversation around this family and sort of all the ways that their lifestyle was just not right for those kids.
What they definitely don't tell you about about going viral is that suddenly everybody and their mother thinks your business is theirs. Y'all low-key got hands on my HIPAA information at this point, because some of the stuff you be digging up, I have no idea how you can legally be obtaining any of this information, quite honestly. Now, this may come as a surprise to some, but we have no plans on responding to all these conspiracy theories and endless videos that people be ranting about. I will say this, I can proudly say that I never took nobody's viral moment to try to get my own, especially not slandering their name. But go ahead, keep on posting your updates about my family and building your content and all your base of your followers off my back. Go ahead.
But despite all of this, all the negativity surrounding Stephanie's account, she was not going to back down. I mean, she had finally caught a glimpse of that success that she'd always wanted so badly, the success that she'd dreamed of and the success that she'd begged for. And so, of course, I mean, you can imagine she wasn't willing to give that up, especially not without a fight, because this was the big break that she'd always known that she was going to have. She knew this time was going to come. And it was how she was planning on providing a better life for her family. And so since then, like I said, what made Stephanie go viral is essentially what her content has revolved around since then. It's been all about like showcasing their lives as a family, living below the poverty line, living in this cramped apartment.
One thing about my content is that I want it to be relatable and I want it to be realistic. Realistically, a mom with 5 kids and a family of 7 living in a 1-bedroom apartment, one of us gets alone time except when we go in the bathroom. Like I'm held at some kind of ridiculous standard. Because what mom would not be overstimulated by never getting alone time? I most definitely don't get alone time in the bathroom either, because my kids be popping in there every time I'm in there. This isn't me complaining, because I'm not the type to complain about being a parent. It's me trying to give a little more insight to what it's like to be a family of 7 in a 1-bedroom apartment.
And thanks to this new line of content, Stephanie's videos have been consistently raking in millions of views. So people sort of waited with bated breath for Stephanie to fulfill her goal, her greatest hope and dream, you know, of providing a better life for her babies. But that never happened. In fact, due to their overcrowded apartment, which the Jenkins parents had gamed the system to hold on to and then like blasted all over the internet, they ended up being evicted from their 1-bedroom apartment. And their living situation has only gotten worse since then, because they weren't accepted into any new rental properties, and unfortunately TikTok money just isn't good enough for them to buy a house up front. And so they recently had to resort to occupying a room at a dingy motel in an unsafe area with their 4 children and 1 newborn baby. So that's just great. Also, because they were unable to find another rental, they decided that the only option for Stephanie's beloved cats was to leave them out on the street. And that's exactly what they did. They locked those cats out of their home and they drove away. They left them to fend for themselves. And then, like sort of on the outside at this point, Stephanie's mum, she came forward on TikTok to offer her daughter and her grandkids a safe place to stay with her. And Stephanie did not accept this. She quickly, she spat daggers back at her mother, and she said that she was toxic and abusive and she was only crawling into her life for no other reason than the fact that Stephanie was popular online now and she wanted a slice of that pie. So Stephanie said pretty much, my children will absolutely not be involved with my mother. We are not going to move in with my mother. And while all of this was happening, Drew was also being slowly cornered by the mother of his first child, Arleta, who was finally, after 12 years, able to have legal documents served to Drew for failing to pay child support. All this time. Oh, and also, apparently, Drew has some serious health concerns that have emerged over the past month or so. Which, maybe, just my theory here, but could be related to the pure stress caused by the lifestyle that they have chosen for themselves. But anyway, that brings us to the present day, where Stephanie is now living out her dreams of providing for her family with an unstable income from social media. And it's not looking too hot for the Jenkins, is it? No. And listen, it's not ideal to be cramming everything you own into a motel room, is it? Let alone a motel room chock full with 7 people in it. Nothing about that is ideal. I do respect that in their very unideal and abnormal situation, they are attempting to maintain a semblance of normalcy for their kids by continuing to cook and clean and by plugging in the PS5 as soon as humanly possible after arriving, but there have got to be better ways to go about things than what they're doing. Look, I understand that home cooking is definitely less expensive when it comes to feeding a family of 6 food eaters 3 square meals a day, but cooking the way they have been in a motel bathroom and washing the dishes in a bathtub that you'd probably want to wear jandals in so your feet don't touch the bottom is feral. I think they just need to figure out other ways to do it. To be fair, they're very new to motel living. But, cooking up patties on a hot plate in the dookie room in a motel room is just not the best idea. And you can actually cook, to be fair, a lot of proper foods in the microwave. You can cook humera, which is sweet potatoes, even just normal potatoes, eggs, I think. So maybe that would be a better idea. But then there are people saying, I've seen people saying that, the Jenkins family should be eating nothing but ready-made microwave meals and biffing out things that make their motel room look cluttered. But I don't get that. I mean, like, I feel like either living in a motel room could be quite permanent for the Jenkins family, or it could be, you know, they could be out tomorrow. And if it's quite permanent, then you definitely don't want to be surviving alongside your 4 food-eating children on ready-made microwave meals and takeaways, right? That's not good. And if it's not going to be super permanent, then you're going to kick yourself for bidding all your stuff, right? Like your pots and pans and stuff like that. You're going to want that around. So I don't know. I think ideally they just need to be getting out of that motel ASAP. I guess what I'm saying is I just think that I feel like with situations like this, it gets to the point where people start picking at like even the smallest details, when realistically it's like the big picture is bad enough as it is. We don't really need to focus in on that small stuff. And I get why people do, why they start talking about the smaller details, because you can only discuss the big picture for so long before the conversation starts to get a little bit worn out. But regardless, today I do want to focus on what I think really matters. I want to talk about the kids, I want to talk about their financial management and their mindset, and pretty much the fact that they're not willing to do what needs to be done in order to improve their living situation. Well, I'm not talking about the kids and their financial management. I think I phrased that wrong. I'm talking about the kids and the parents. You know what I meant. And the first thing I wanted to touch on is the kids, including Stephanie's cats, because she has referred to them in the past as her babies. That was before she threw them outside and left them in the dust, of course. But regardless, let me begin by telling you that Stephanie's cats, Milo, Jasper, Onyx, and the black cat, Conscience, maybe it was called? I honestly don't even know. Cats just kept appearing in her videos. Like, I truly am not even sure how many she had at once. Those cats were like main characters on Stephanie's TikTok for a while there, okay? Like sort of 2022, 2023 times. Man, they were featured all the time. She was constantly posting like their cute moments, she was posting her loving up on them, and she just had nothing bad to say about those cats. She said they were tolerant, and there's videos of the cats looking healthy and happy enough, really, and there's even some really, really sweet videos. Like there's one of I think maybe it was Milo, but I can't tell them all apart. I'm so face blind it even rolls into cats. But they were laying on Stephanie's pregnant belly. And Stephanie shared just all the time that she was like beyond glad that she made the choice to take in those cats. And they were basically, she said they were like therapy for her. She said they really, really helped calm her anxiety. Like they were a very important part of her family. So during her formative years on TikTok, what I'm saying is that Stephanie solidified herself as a cat lover. Those cats were totally integrated into her family. I'm not even being dramatic. Like, those were her babies.
I mean, we're to the point where, like, it's like the cats are the cars, and I'm like, bro, the cats. So we're gonna take it down to one car, see what we can do.
But then when Stephanie moved and withdrew, the cats began to be featured just less and less and less in her posts. Milo made an appearance in one that I remember in particular, which was a video of Stephanie, textbook, begging for followers so that she could finally buy things for her family, because W2 jobs, you've got to remember, do not exist as an option in Stephanie's world. In that video, she mentioned that Milo had a skin condition that they were unable to treat due to their financial situation. And from that point on, I don't recall ever really seeing the cats again. They were like here and there, like maybe in the odd video, but they weren't there all the time. So months later, right after Stephanie posts this TikTok with Milo in it, talking about how she needs money to cure his skin condition, the Jenkins family are served an eviction notice, and suddenly the cats are once again a topic on Stephanie's TikTok account, but not in a way that anyone would have expected, or that at least anyone would have ever wanted to like see or to hear or to have to expect. Because essentially what Stephanie did is she came to the platform, she said, you know, man, these cats, they really hate their cushy indoor lifestyle. They really would totally prefer to live outside. I mean, wouldn't we all? She basically said that she wanted her kids to experience having indoor cats, and that's why they had them as indoor-outdoor cats for a long time. Even though it led to them having fleas, you know, she said it was worth it. But she said that now it was decided that it was in the family's best interest for their cats to be solely, wait until you hear this, outdoor cats. Also known as stray cats? Like, what do you mean an outdoor cat? I mean, I don't know. Let me know if you've ever heard of someone having an outdoor cat. I guess maybe like cats on farms could be considered. I guess some of them might be outdoor cats and they like live in the barn and catch mice or whatever. But just in my experience, personally, pet cats are either indoor cats or they're indoor-outdoor cats, because otherwise you don't really have a pet cat, do you? Otherwise, like in my mind now, you're just feeding a stray if you don't let the cats inside at all. I don't know, but this decision that the Jenkins made, it was clearly thought through and discussed, because it was set in stone. Like, Stephanie literally had herself filmed throwing out their litter boxes and all their cat stuff. And she just didn't, I don't understand why not, but she just didn't seem to see any problem with what she was doing and what she was saying, because she shamelessly uploaded the video of her talking about this and throwing out the cat stuff. Like, you didn't realize that people were going to have a negative reaction to you turning your indoor cats into stray cats? But that didn't make them change their minds by any means. They kept those cats outside. They did what they said they were going to do. And this is, you know, despite the fact that the cats, who totally obviously hated living inside and would much have preferred to be outside, I kept making an effort to come back home. They did this multiple times, and every time they just got picked up and thrown back outside again. And that is just like heartbreaking to me. The fact that they made an irresponsible pet ownership. I'm like, just take care of your fucking pets. Like, there was no effort made to have them surrendered to a no-kill shelter, or even like they didn't ask around to see if someone would be happy to take in a free house-trained cat. They said they tried all of these different avenues, but I don't think they did, because they were like, no, we're still keeping the cats, but we're just gonna leave them outside. But then obviously they were moving and they couldn't come to a motel. Like, the cats can't come to a motel room with them, you know what I mean? So obviously this is what they were planning. To me, it seems obvious anyway. And we will talk about Drew and Stephanie's abysmal planning throughout this video, because I think that definitely contributed to their decision to unhome their cats, was the fact that like they didn't have anywhere to take them to, because they hadn't planned that far ahead and they were about to be evicted. But they legitimately just ridded themselves of their cats. Like, the cats were like problems, which is so sad, because they weren't exactly cats from hell, were they? Like, you'll see in all of Stephanie's videos, and she said it herself, that their biggest crime was like shedding fur. Those cats all seemed like really sweet cats, and she just sent them outside to wreak havoc on the ecosystem, and also to possibly like starve or be attacked or killed by a bigger animal. Like, things you just don't really want to think about happening. She was just like, you know what, let nature take them. They're domesticated indoor cats. They don't want to be outside. We've literally bred them to be reliant on us. And so despite what came out of Stephanie's mouth about like, oh, they're gonna stay with us and be outdoor cats, and also like, oh no, we tried to get them into shelters and blah blah blah, those cats were abandoned, and the Jenkins family officially moved out and away, leaving their cats on the street. And we don't know exactly what's happened to all of them, not to my knowledge anyway, but we do know for sure that one of their cats, Milo, who was the cat with the skin condition, he has been taken in. I think he was taken in pretty much straight after the Jenkins moved out, by this kind-hearted woman named Shaylin, who lived, I think, like 5 minutes away from the Jenkins family, and she stopped by their apartment complex and found him and took him home. And she has since started a GoFundMe to raise thousands of dollars to cover Milo's vet bills. And you may be thinking, why would Milo's vet bills be that high? What could possibly be going on with the cat? Yeah, well, I realized very quickly after watching Shaylin rescue Milo, the video she filmed herself doing it, I realized why Milo was never given the spotlight on Stephanie's TikTok anymore, especially after they blew up. And that's because even once the Resilient Jenkins started making extra money from TikTok, the money that Stephanie came to the platform to beg for, in part so that the poor wee cat's skin condition could be treated, by the way, his skin condition was never addressed. I mean, Stephanie is notoriously not a fan of medicine, which we will talk about later, and she favors like natural remedies, so she did say she tried putting essential oil in the cat's litter to help them out, which is not good for cats at all. So it sounds like she did kind of try to treat them, but it was not a great or well-researched effort. So despite that, Milo was found in a painful state. He had fleas and worms and a plethora of other health issues that were clearly of no real importance to the Jenkins. Because I guess who doesn't love living in a flea-infested one-bedroom apartment with your 5 kids and your poor fucking cat that's scratching itself to the bone with no relief in sight? Isn't that just a lovely way to live? You know what I mean? Who would prioritize buying flea treatment and paying for vet visits? No, couldn't be the Jenkins. But thankfully, despite all of Milo's suffering, he was still found to be perfectly friendly and tolerant and cuddly. He lets his mum put pajamas on him every night to help with his skin condition healing. Isn't that just so like perfectly wholesome? So that's at least a good story, a story with a positive ending. And if you want to see more of Milo, he does pretty much have a TikTok page dedicated to him at this point. You can follow Shaylin_F93 on TikTok. She seems like a very nurturing person, and it's reassuring to know that at least one of the Jenkins cats are in safe hands. And with the help of the kind folks on the internet who have come together to donate a total of $6,500 to Milo's fund, which is amazing, Milo is able to heal a little bit more every day. And some more sort of good news surrounding this situation is that for once, in this case, the Jenkins family might actually find themselves facing some sort of real justice for what they did to their cats. Because according to my calculations, Alright, I googled it. I'll admit it. According to Google, animal abandonment is a crime in Portland, Oregon, and it's punishable. It's a punishable crime. Shocker, I know. The Jenkins family live in Portland, Oregon, by the way. I didn't just like search a random state. But I found an article written by birdallianceoregon.com sort of about this topic, and that reads, Oregon Administrative Rule 167.340. Oh man, I would not cut it as a lawyer, but anyway, it says, a person commits the crime of animal abandonment if the person intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly, or with criminal negligence, leaves a domesticated animal at a location without providing for that animal's continued care. Animal abandonment is a Class C misdemeanor punishable by up to a $1,000 fine and or 30 days in jail. And so I guess that 30 days could just be like tacked on to Drew's jail time, maybe? I've heard they are genuinely being investigated now for animal abandonment, which is great. And I mean, like, they did quite literally film themselves abandoning, and also they voiced their intention to abandon their cats in like no uncertain terms. So it's kind of like a no questions asked type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, what, I don't know how they could defend themselves from that. But what was that? You said, why would Drew be going to jail? Oh, well, you see, dodging child support payments for 12 years is not exactly legal. And that is probably, hopefully, about to bite Drew in the ass. I'll try to give you another quick rundown on this situation, although we all know my quick rundowns are not very quick, I'm sorry. But you can head to Nails by Arleta on TikTok to hear everything in depth, because she's made a lot of really great videos talking about her experience with Drew and what she's doing to catch him. But essentially, when the Resilient Jenkins popped off on TikTok, people thought, oh man, look at those loving parents living in poverty but still doing the best they can for their kids. Oh, Drew is such a good dad to his two sons, because he had obviously his one son from before Stephanie and his other son with Stephanie. But then Arleta, she came on the platform and she said, oh, jump scare, because despite what everyone else was seeing, what she was seeing before her eyes was the baby daddy of her eldest child who had totally disappeared from their lives. I guess because he'd been too busy evading child support to, you know, make the time to spend with his baby. Just like fully and shamelessly on TikTok raising 5 kids, or almost 5 kids, in a 1-bedroom apartment. She was like, huh? And so Arleta went like full mama bear on Drew, which I cannot tell you enough how much I respect. She like snarkily and confidently ripped both Drew and Stephanie a new one. She said stuff like,
he hasn't paid child support, but he has a PS5. I feel bad for those kids that they have to sleep on the floor. And that man has not changed. So for people that are saying like, oh, they're in a 1-bedroom apartment there with 2 loving parents. No, that's not love. You don't put your kids on the floor. You sacrifice for your kids. You don't put your kids on the floor. His priorities were messed up, and that's why we never worked the fuck out. You're going viral. For what? And then you continue to make more babies, and you couldn't even take care of the first one that you had. He don't even know you, but he wanted to know you. You don't even know how great of a kid you got. See, she said in her live earlier that God has been blessing them. No, baby. God ain't blessing you. Andrew's karma is about to do a 360. And while the Oregon's been looking for you, Andrew Alexander Jenkins, all the shit you've been doing, literally all the shit you've been doing, is going to come back tenfold. Your dad, bless his soul, that he ain't here to see this. You're an embarrassment. I'm sick, but I have the most beautiful son, and he would never be nothing like you.
And Drew's other child's mother, Desiree, I think her name is, has shared similar sentiments. So he's got a great track record, right? But anyway, this kind of attitude from Arleta, and probably from Desiree too, is well deserved, because, well, I guess specifically in Arleta's case, in the case of Arleta and her son, she had genuinely tried to keep Drew in her child's life and updated on how their child was doing. And that was regardless of his, like, he had communication issues, he had like a troubling drug addiction at the time. And he couldn't even bear to pay her $100 a month to help her care for the son that they had created together, that she was taking care of. And just in case you're wondering, by the way, because like anyone can come on the internet and say anything, but Arleta has like 100% verified her connection to Andrew, and the Resilient Jenkins have kind of like in a roundabout way done the same thing. But there are like no ifs or buts or maybes about the fact that Drew proved to be a deadbeat dad to his first child, and he has never, as he matured or anything, made any attempt to pick up that slack. He can't even find it in himself to financially provide a little bit from his wages for this child. It's just so upsetting. And Stephanie knows this, by the way, like knows Drew has another son that he's not providing for and just doesn't, care. Like, she's 100% supportive of it, which is so cute. But luckily, Drew's son with Arleta has an amazing mother, and his mother does have a village around her to like support her and her child, because what Drew has done to that child is so incredibly heartbreaking, and it could be so damaging. But thankfully, like I said, he's got a good mother, a good support system, and Arleta has even enabled her son to meet with a counselor when necessary, and she maintains a very open and honest and uplifting sort of channel of communication with her son, from what she shared on TikTok anyway, which I think is all great. I've said this before, but sometimes it doesn't really benefit a child to have their father in their lives or their mother in their lives, and I think this honestly might be one of those situations where it's just like it hurts, obviously, but what is Drew really going to bring to that child's life other than misery, like more misery than he's already caused? It's just not worth it sometimes. But what Arleta has shared on TikTok recently is that thanks to internet sleuths that would be better off employed by the CIA rather than just sitting on their couch scrolling, she was able to track Drew down. And after all these years, she's finally been able to have Drew served. So he's being held in contempt of court, which essentially means that he has disregarded or disobeyed a court order, aka he didn't pay child support. Divorce attorney Franklin.com wrote, "A person may be charged with contempt of court if they disobey a court order or obstruct the administration of justice. In regards to child support, a person may be charged with contempt if they fail to pay child support that was mandated by the court. Custodial parents can file a petition with the court to find a non-custodial parent who does not pay child support in contempt of court. If they're successful, the non-custodial parent can be ordered to pay that child support, pay fines, and even pay the custodial parents legal fees. Family law judges have a great deal of authority when petitions are filed. When a contempt petition is filed based on unpaid child support, the judge may determine how to move forward depending on the payer's reasoning for disobeying the court order. If there's a valid reason for failing to pay, a judge may show more leniency than if there was not. On the other hand, if the reason was not legitimate, such as the payer was simply trying to spite the recipient, a judge may deal with them more harshly." And I mean, I'm sure that Drew has plenty of excuses stashed up his ass as to why he has simply been unable to pay child support for the past decade, but I do kind of hope that doesn't stand up in court, because it's obvious he just doesn't want to pay. And Arleta this whole time has been busting her ass to not only raise her eldest son, by herself for some time, but also when it comes to like making an effort to deal with Drew, she worked hard for that. She worked hard to stay in contact with him, and he proved to be just like a full-on piece of shit. So I think it's time for her to get some well-deserved sweet payback, to be honest. And in the past, right, they have spoken about this, the Resilient Jenkins, this child support fiasco. And the only way that Drew has like argued against Arleta's claims is he said that he's been paying via garnishments, wage garnishments, for as long as he can remember. Which means that when Drew has worked W-2 jobs previously, as far as he's been aware, he said he's been paying Arleta from out of his wages. In the same way that you pay off maybe like a student loan in New Zealand. I don't know if it happens in the US, but the government just will like nab it straight out of your paycheck. They're like, thank you. But you'll note on that line of thinking that Drew has like an allergic reaction almost when W-2 jobs are mentioned to him. He has like this visceral like, ugh, no, not a taxed waged job. And I do wonder if that pesky, child support with those wage garnishments that come off the top of his wage, I wonder if that has something to do with it, with his like hatred for working. But what is just absolutely crazy to me about this whole situation is that if Drew does end up going to jail, or if he is, finally forced to back pay Arleta for years of missed child support payments, which is more likely, that's going to affect his ability to provide for the 5 other children that he has at home. Like, this guy who couldn't even fork out $100 a month for diapers and wipes for his first newborn son thought, you know what would be the best, most awesome idea for me? Is if I fathered 3 more children biologically and also took in 2 stepchildren. Because obviously I love kids and I am responsible enough to have lots of them. Doesn't that just make sense? I guess it's just like Stephanie and Drew's, their back-to-back pregnancies while living in an apartment that was in worse standing than like a $10 a night backpacker hostel. That was one of the first things that like flicked the switch in my head that really started turning me against them, I guess. Because the only reason Stephanie went viral on TikTok was because she started sharing sob stories about her and her children, including the sob story, please, my man won't let me have more babies unless we go viral. And I am so not done having babies. Please, I beg you, watch this video. Without your help, my dreams of having a massive family are quite wish. But then that sob story, that was interspersed throughout other ones that were like, please, we are so poor and struggling to provide for our already birthed children. We need your help. And like, please, make my pretty little precious children go viral so that I can provide a better life for them. Please, God, open some doors for my children. And it's like, pick one, babe. Pick one, because what you're doing is closing the door directly in your children that are already alive. You're closing the door in their face by having more. Like, are you struggling to provide for the children you already have? Or are you in the right position to have more? You can only pick one of those options. And I mean, like, obviously they were in some sort of position, but like the right one in life financially, no. I don't think so. I just don't think it takes a genius. Like, any person with half a brain, or possibly even like one singular remaining brain cell, knows that if you are living with 3 children in a 1-bedroom apartment and struggling to stay afloat, you should not add more kids to the situation. Like, Drew plus Stephanie, it's like 1 + 1 equals too many. You already have too many right now, so stop. Like, focus on improving your situation. Focus on increasing your funds, not the world's population, you know what I mean? I mean, if you are not even willing or are not able to pay a single cent towards your child support payments for your first child, then you definitely shouldn't be using fucking sugar, spice, and everything nice and some chemical X in the bedroom, you know what I mean? And now, I almost went to say surprise Pikachu face, but I don't want to age myself, so I'll just say, you'll be shocked to hear that this year, Stephanie lamented on TikTok that she was heartbroken that they couldn't afford to celebrate their 2-year-old's birthday. Oh, wow. Girl, it's almost like you shouldn't have had more kids when you didn't have the funds to care for them properly. No freaking way, dude. And like I said, Stephanie got what she wanted. She went viral on TikTok, but she's still on the platform harping about how, she just wants to be able to give her kids a better life. So I guess TikTok didn't work then, right? So how are you going to do it now? What's your next step? Because you went viral on TikTok and now your life is literally, your life with this family is worse than it ever has been. She's like a squid that like released ink, for its own protection, but ended up squirting itself straight in its eyeballs. Instead, it's almost painful to watch. Well, no, it is painful to watch because she is still, despite everything that has happened recently, in absolute denial that a W-2 job might be exactly the magical potion that the Jenkins need to get out of this mess. But then, look at this. Stephanie said, for those wondering, we did celebrate Bubba's birthday. We were all sick, so we kept it small and got pizza, Bubba's favourite, and got Bubba more colouring stuff. I want to get him a personal trampoline, but that's going to have to wait. What I'm hearing, this is just what I'm hearing, but it's that if you prioritised things, like your kids' birthdays, and you maybe planned ahead a little bit, you might struggle less. Because what I'm reading is that they did have the money to do a little something for Bubba's birthday, but they were stressed because they clearly didn't have it set aside for Bubba's birthday, even though they knew that Bubba's birthday was coming up and they need the money to do something. I mean, it's not like birthdays are a surprise every year, is it? Like, you know when a birthday's coming up. You know when you need to start planning and saving so that you can have, $10 extra to spend on that day or whatever. And so I may be wrong in this observation, but it seems like there's a mix of like a lack of education and a lack of motivation as far as, budgeting and general lifing goes, that may be playing quite a large part in the Jenkinses' constant struggles. Because the fact is, listen, like being poor or living in poverty, that should not have to suck like every ounce of joy out of your life. You can still allow yourself to have nice things when you have disposable income. And what is disposable income, you might ask? Well, it's income that's left once you've paid your bills and met your kids and your animal and your own needs, including annoying things like lice treatment and flea treatment. And it's stuff that's left over once you've topped up all of your saving accounts, like kids savings, emergency savings, birthday savings, and so on. And when it comes to budgeting, especially when you're like really tight on money, if you ever want to like even slightly get ahead, it's something that you really should have down to a science. It should be like, this goes towards all the necessities, and then the leftover, a percentage goes here, another percentage goes there. And I'm not saying it's like easy. It's not easy to have that much willpower, and it's certainly difficult when you aren't even like making enough to realistically afford everything you need. But still, it's just like, even if you can put $1 away in savings or towards something important, then at least you're making an effort to be responsible, and you're making an effort to get ahead, and you're making an effort to make your life and your children's lives easier. Because I guess I just feel like, shit happens. It happens every day to everyone. It's always like, you know, you think you've finally gotten ahead, just that little bit, and then, oh, yeah, no, your car's broken down. Yeah. That really is just life. You know, sometimes everything that you've worked to save becomes unsaved very quickly, but that's when you thank yourself for having savings. But what I'm saying is that, like, life is hard. Life is expensive. And some people are working every day, like, breaking their backs to make ends meet and still sort of not cutting it, even then, even with all that work. But the Resilient Jenkins aren't in like a shit happens situation. The Resilient Jenkins are in a poor forethought happened situation. Like, I mean, do you think that the Jenkins sort of only realized that they were struggling financially after they popped out their fifth baby, or did they probably already know that? Or, you know, did they only just realize that they were struggling financially the day that they got evicted from their apartment, or did they know? No, they knew, right? And what have they done about it? Well, they've definitely not sold Drew's PS5, that's for sure. And they definitely have not sent job applications in anywhere other than the TikTok For You page. But that's because the Jenkins parents are surviving on two things. One is government assistance, and the other is a dream. The government assistance is obviously like benefits and probably food stamps, because I'll give Stephanie one thing, and that's that her family eat like kings. And the dream that they're like living and breathing is obviously, you know, Stephanie's dream to go mega viral on TikTok and receive donations from adoring fans and rake in money from the creator program. That's like the big dream for them, right? That's the big plan. Oh, it's okay that we're struggling now because we're going to be rich in the end. That's their end goal. And you know, that's how they were planning on providing a life of luxury for their never-ending array of children that they were planning on having. But like I mentioned, they've kind of achieved that dream now of TikTok virality, and it seems to have amounted to nothing.
I'm sorry, but there's just something wrong with these application fees, because of spending $120 just to be denied, it gets pretty discouraging when you're already trying to be careful with your finances, and there's a high potential you're going to have to put in multiple applications for multiple places. I've seen this comment that someone said they calculated up how much we'd be making on social media, and it's like 18 grand a month. Man, I freaking wish.
And to be fair to the Jenkins, I'll give them one thing other than, you know, eating well. And that's that I've noticed that people seem to be like grossly overestimating how much the Resilient Jenkins make from their TikTok page alone. This is a narrative that I've seen spun a lot, that anyone accruing millions of views on TikTok is essentially on par with like Bill Gates and Elon Musk. But unfortunately for deserving creators, that doesn't really seem to be the case. I mean, I know that monetizing short form videos simply is just not where the money is. Even on YouTube, if you want to make thousands of dollars, you can either get 1 million views on one long form video, or you can get 100 million views on one short form video. And I mean, obviously what each creator makes is completely unique, because there are so many variables that dictate whether a creator earns $0 from a view or a couple of cents from a view. You know what I mean? I will say though, I have to admit, we don't actually have the creator program in TikTok, nor do we have TikTok shop. We pretty much just have no money. If you get a sponsorship, then good for you, but otherwise you're making videos for free. And I don't post on TikTok for fear of becoming part of the brain rot committee. So all I could really do was feast my eyes on Google search results to answer my burning question, which was, how much are the Resilient Jenkins really making from TikTok? Well, the answer made me understand very quickly why TikTok influencers are so eager to accept brand gifts and sponsorships, and it's because you really need like side hustles for your side hustle on TikTok, because the money is just not in monetization. It's in other areas, like it's in the TikTok shop, live streams, memberships, and general posts on external platforms, and merch and affiliate marketing and all that jazz. But the money is just not there from views. It's really interesting as well, because TikTok is very fussy. So you don't just need to get views on your video, but you need to get qualified views, meaning that your video has to be scrolled upon by the viewer on the For You page. And although I am sure that there are plenty of people that watch the Resilient Jenkins videos the whole way through, regardless of length, just to see, you know, which foot they put in their mouth this time, I would also be willing to bet that a lot of their views come from people checking out their profile, which means that not one single minute of that viewer's watch time is paid out to the Jenkins. Unless they come across it on their For You page, no money is made. My understanding anyway. But going by the numbers online that a creator should apparently get paid, they'd be looking at about 40 cents per 1,000 qualified views. That really is just not much. So if we assume that Stephanie posts, say, like 25 videos in a month, and each of those videos gets maybe 500,000 qualified views, they'd be looking at making about $5,000 for that entire month with 25 videos with 500,000 qualified views each, which just seems like so low, but it's short form content. And the number can easily fluctuate, I will say. Like, every video will have different ad rates and a different amount of qualified views. There are so many, like I said, so many variables. But if we look at sort of the lower end of the scale, which I'd imagine is probably where they're sitting, to be honest, then yeah, like 5,000. So we can't be sure how much the Jenkins are making overall, but I'd wager that they might be making, you know, up to maybe $6,000 a month, and that's including money made from their side hustles like Facebook memberships and TikTok shop, and maybe more if they live stream, which I'm not sure if they do consistently. But yeah, not particularly impressive numbers. Like, they're not going to be rich anytime soon. They're not going to be living in a golden mansion. It's enough to make it by, but even then, I don't know, I can't imagine a family of 7 would live super comfortably on $5,000 a month. I don't know what it's like in the US, but I just feel like feeding that many mouths alone would be so expensive. Like, you'd need some sort of government assistance, right? Especially if they're trying to pay for a rental that's like a reasonable size to house a family of 7. Even like a 3-bedroom place, that could be like $2,000 a month alone. So that's like half of their earnings gone on the rental already, and that's not paying for supplies, food, bills. And on top of that, while a family that boasts, you know, at least 1, but maybe even 2 parents who are working full-time, they might possibly find it easier to secure a house. 2 unemployed folk with unstable income and a gaggle of children might find it just a little bit harder, a little more difficult to be accepted, because they have no stable proof of income. And how can the landlord then guarantee that they're going to be able to make rent payments? You can't really. So there are 2 facts here, 2 things that are set in stone, and one is that we can't really possibly know exactly how much the Jenkins are making on TikTok. And the other fact is that if they're not making enough to sustain themselves on TikTok, then one of those parents at least should be working a boring real life job. I know it's so sad to think about, but they really should be doing it. And actually, there are 3 facts. The third is that if they are making stacks of cash on TikTok, then they should not be in the situation that they're in. Like, even if they lived in a mansion and just on the side they were bringing their kids to this motel room and they were like, sit there and we're gonna film some videos, you know, for rage bait or whatever, I mean, this should not and probably would not be happening, period. Like, there's no good reason for it to be happening. Not in their situation. But I do just want to mention as well, even my estimate that the Jenkins would make, say, like, $5,000 off of 500,000 qualified views per video it's kind of like generous, because some months have looked a bit rough as far as views for the Jenkins family goes. Stephanie kind of went the less problematic route during the end stages of her pregnancy back in like maybe like November, December last year. And you can see visibly, very easily, how that worked out for the Jenkins. Not very well. Their views dropped from millions of views per video to maybe like 500,000 views per video, if that. Stephanie realized, I think, what was happening to their views and therefore their finances, and so she reintroduced drama to their account by posting this TikTok that reads, "Making the breakfast I know he'll eat, because if I don't, he won't eat, and it will somehow be mine or the kid's fault." After she posted that, their audience like rallied around Stephanie, and they took the chance to like come back to the Jenkins family TikTok and denounce the parents again. But after this public outcry, Stephanie came to her viewers and she admitted that the situation had been manufactured for attention.
So bear with my awkward self, because these talking videos I'm just not quite comfortable with quite yet. But this post was a strategic post on my part. Recently, I've been having a lot of couples pop up in my algorithm that have these like quote-unquote couple issues going on. And I can tell it's like staged on their part. And I don't mean to be judgmental, but what I noticed was within their algorithm, their views spiked tremendously, and they get a lot more followers than that. And I feel like it was because the general population of those new followers are people that are like, okay, I want to watch this couple fall apart. And it just had my gut off. I was like, is that really how people think? And I started wondering like how many people are following me and Drew for that very reason. Because for the past 3 years, all I've put forward and all I've said about my man is that he's an amazing father. He's a very supportive partner, and I've spoke nothing different. But the one post that I put up saying anything that would contradict that, putting a bad rep on my man, blows up like that. I mean, this is the most views I've had on a video in a while, definitely the most likes I've had. And then I got all these people in the comments like, oh, I knew this all along. What did you know? Because I haven't said anything about my man negatively. up until this post, which I just mentioned was a strategic move on my part.
Because her whole experience, Stephanie's whole experience of going viral and then seeing her views taper off had solidified one fact for Stephanie. And that fact was that people love drama and people will show up to watch drama. And so I think that she decided if they want to eat drama, that is what I will feed them. Not that she seems to be enjoying the repercussions of that at all, but I digress.
Go on, explain yourself. If I explain myself, you're not even going to take 2 seconds to actually pay attention to my perspective. You're going to go ahead and listen to all the perspectives that are put out there about me. Make that make sense. You want me to sit here and explain my side of the story, but you're not even going to listen to it. So what the fuck is the point?
So sure, the thing is, like, when the Jenkins are digging themselves and their children, by the way, when they're digging themselves and their children a hole online, they can make decent money. But that's only when they're digging their family a hole. So is it worth it when you could just go get a job? But even with, like, what they're doing with their money, that's another story. Because, like, I do understand that living is hard, for sure. And when you're down, it can be tough to get back up again. Tub thumping isn't as easy as Danny Boy made it sound, okay? But I say this because I see it happen in my real life often, and it's that you will never get ahead if you're not making an active effort to get ahead. So unless the Jenkins have like resisted buying themselves new toys and instead stashed their money away in savings and done budget calculations and, you know, all that adult stuff, then it honestly doesn't matter how much money they stumble into because they won't spend it wisely and they will go straight back to struggling. This is an education issue, like I said, in some ways, but we all do have access to the internet. Like, Google has some pretty good budgeting tips. But to be fair, I'm not sure that the Jenkins family would appreciate Google's budgeting tips because you know what would really help the Jenkins that they just don't want to admit is stable, consistent income. The Jenkins are currently a family of 7 stuck living in a motel room in a sketchy area because they are not ideal tenants for rental properties. Meanwhile, Drew continues to maintain that he does not see the value in working a W-2 job for less than $30 an hour as he sits in the motel room that he's sharing with his partner and his 5 kids because of the simple reason that they both refuse to work. Where is his brain making this? I just don't get it. And Stephanie as well has said, like, she's come on the platform and been like, Drew has done everything he can to provide for his family, but has he? It seems more like he's doing everything he can't. Like, he says he hates not working, but then he also says that he hates working for less than his time is worth. So is his time not worth enough money to provide for his family? Is that not good enough for him? I mean, I understand being like jaded by employment. Totally. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? But he's like, on giving up on employment, Drew is also giving up on his children, having a good role model for work ethic that will help them cultivate a better life for themselves in the future. He's giving up on his children and providing for them. You can't do that as a parent. And I know for a fact that stuff like this does affect children because I grew up with 2 unemployed parents for like the majority of my childhood, and I didn't learn how to balance life and work. And my parents would both sort of complain about how like awful workplaces are, so I learned that work was something to be avoided. I never learned the benefits of work. That's something that you have to address when you're older to survive because your parents refused to address it when you were younger, you know? And Drew and Stephanie's mindsets about working are particularly sad to me because there are 5 children in this situation that desperately need their parents to step up. And Drew and Stephanie are just consistently more concerned with their like enjoyment in life than they are with taking care of the children that they created. Like, I understand that jobs can like suck at you like energy vampires until there's nothing left inside of you by the end of the day. And I also understand wanting to save some of that energy for your kids. But what I definitely understand over all else is that you need to work to make money to survive. And ideally, you will eventually find a way to make money in a field that you enjoy. It's not like you get hired somewhere and then you can never work anywhere other than with that company again. You know what I mean? You're not doing time there. It's not like 25 to life or something. You can work somewhere and be bringing an income and still be applying to other jobs that you think you might like more. It's not a death sentence. It's just that Drew and Stephanie need to be prioritizing their income and prioritizing their kids. It's not one or the other. And by making TikToks, I think Stephanie might feel like she's struck that balance, but the way their life is going, she's actually doing the opposite. She's realistically prioritizing neither her kids nor her income. And I just think, like, if Stephanie really wanted her kids to have more space and more opportunities, like she said, really, truly, and realistically, then she'd be doing more. Like, she'd see that this whole sitting around and waiting for TikTok to pay out millions thing is not working, and she'd stop not working. She'd go to work. And the thing is with TikTok, this feels mean to say as well, but like, if they prioritize doing better for their kids and doing better with their money, the Jenkins would probably pretty much lose the money that they're making from TikTok, because most hate watchers wouldn't stick around then, and that's like the majority of the Jenkins audience, unfortunately. Like, the thing is that most hate watchers don't want to actually physically see the people they're watching do better, even though a lot of them say, oh, you should do better and blah blah blah. They don't mean it. If they catch like a whiff of improvement, you know what I mean, they just up and move on to the next train wreck they can find. And with the Jenkins, honestly, at the bare minimum, I'd love to think that they've like realized that, and now they're just making rage bag content to actually make money that's allowing them to live well. But I mean, that still wouldn't be great for the kids, but it would be better. But I think that's just wishful thinking. It's pretty clear to me that they're not, due to multiple factors, including the fact that Alida has still not received the child support that she's owed. Like, surely if they made tons of money to the point that their family is thriving now, they'd want to sort of cover up that track. But either way, the Jenkins should not be blasting their kids and their struggles all over social media for seemingly no reward as well. But we should probably not be encouraging them to do it on that same sort of wavelength, because we give people like this attention. It's almost human nature, and it's just like exemplified by the internet that we see someone doing something stupid and we're like, oh, I gotta stop to watch this. And it's these train wrecks, they're like toddlers, okay? They don't care if they're getting negative or positive attention, they just crave the attention, and so they'll throw a tantrum to get it. And now the Jenkins have further reasons to be like rage inducing, because Arleta is chasing up child support, and suddenly Drew has these health issues that are so concerning that he can't work at all, and that are so concerning that Stephanie, who I think I mentioned already, is very anti-doctors, which is a weird thing to say, but anyway, his health issues that he has are so concerning that Stephanie has taken him to the doctor's office while leaving their kids at the motel, which the reviews claim houses a lot of drug users and is also in a sketchy neighborhood, apparently, alone, so that they could get Drew's health condition checked. So his condition must have been really dire, right? And to be fair, I do think that I might know what Drew's got. I mean, he's spoken before about being pre-diabetic and even having a heart attack due to heart issues that he's been put on medication for now, which are both conditions he blamed on overworking, by the way.
Yeah, I guess here's the other thing. They'll probably say, get a second job. I've had second job, and this is why I am pre-diabetic and on heart medication. Because I've had a heart attack and went into AFib, and I'm on heart pressure medication. Not making that excuse, but I overworked myself and didn't eat and didn't sleep and didn't eat and didn't sleep to make sure bills were getting paid. It's not like I wasn't. I would like a job that's one job. If I were to have a W-2, one job that pays well. I don't want 2-3 jobs. That's not fair. I know that life ain't fair.
And I'm not gonna lie, like, that is scary, and I hope he's not genuinely very unwell, because like, you wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy, right? But what I'm sensing that Drew might have is please give me a medical certificate to prove that I'm not fit to pay child support itis, which is actually a pretty manageable condition. You just kick their asses and send them to work. But what kills me about all of this as well is how Stephanie enables Drew's mindset about work. They kind of feed off each other, but Drew genuinely to me seems to be nothing but like dead weight for Stephanie and the kids. And he could revive himself, but he simply does not want to. I mean, he quit his job. He quit his decently paid W-2 job, as they call it, that he was making like $24 an hour at, because he only got a $4 raise within his first year of working there. Only. And Stephanie said, yes, babe, do what's best for you. Don't worry, we'll work it out, babe. Anything you want to do, babe. Yes, sit on your ass for hours every day and play video games, babe. I'll take care of everything in the house. And I'll spend my free time begging for donations on social media. Don't worry, babe. We make a great team. Like, this made me chuckle when I came across it, but Stephanie filmed Drew, like paparazzi, when he was filling up their moving truck. And she made it sound like he was doing God's work. He was doing, and I hate to break this to her, he was doing exactly what he should have been doing, especially with a partner that was like 6 or 7 weeks postpartum at the time. Like, no shit, he was putting stuff in the moving truck because he had to move out of his apartment and you couldn't do it all because you're fucking postpartum. It just troubles me the way that Stephanie will happily accept a big old plate of nothing from Drew. She'll sit down at the table and go, babe, this is delicious, and it's just an empty plate. I just, like, what is that teaching their kids, and how is that benefiting Stephanie at all? Because Stephanie has said recently that Drew does, she says he does a lot, and she said like she'd try to get him to film his side of things more often, and I would genuinely love to see that, because the way it seems now, Drew doing a lot consists of him pushing his headphones back from his ears, stepping away from his PS5, and rinsing a dish in the sink, or finishing doing the dishes because Stephanie has to breastfeed their newborn. That's him doing a lot, and to me, especially since he stays home all day, That's like the bare minimum that Drew could be doing. Like this, she's like, oh, my big man Drew packed up our storage unit today, my king. He literally just threw a bunch of soft shit into a pile in the unit and blocked it with some bigger items, and I guess rushed home to get back to his PS5. Or apparently not, because as Stephanie explained here, she said, Drew really don't mess with video games unless everyone else has something to do and is taken care of. And I mean, believe that if you will, but to me, it seems like Stephanie is hellbent on making Drew's life as easy as like humanly possible. She's like, oh, my sweet fragile baby, please sit back down. And I think that shows in the way that she is just constantly praising him for doing less than the bare minimum. Like she's always talking about how, oh, he's working himself to the bone. And whenever she says that, he's just like working, like generally doing work that many adult males do. Or even when he was packing up that moving truck. Or like doing the dishes. She's like, oh my god, you're practically killing yourself scrubbing that plate. I should really step in and let you rest. And that's just crazy to me. Like, is he your partner or is he another one of your children? Because you're acting like he's another one of your children. And so is he. I guess I just think like it's one thing to support your partner and it's another thing to enable your partner. Like here, Stephanie wrote, first morning in a hotel as a family of 7. I got a lot to speak on with all the hate being thrown my man's way, but Wi-Fi isn't the best here and we're working on a solution. The PS5 is a lifesaver in this time because it's the device providing entertainment for the children via TV. There's always this misconception that Drew is just some selfish do-nothing gamer and I'm tired of staying quiet on that. He's always taking the selfless route for his family. He pushed his body to the breaking point to pack the U-Haul. I don't care who wants to keep buying into the BS being said. All we can do is keep doing what we know is best for our family because when it comes down to it, Drew and I are the only ones that know that. There is no domestic violence going on here, no unhappy kids, just 2 parents doing what we can. And I plan to keep speaking on that more and more. This move showed me a strength in both Drew and myself. Strength that we hold as a couple and as parents that are fueled by the kids we would do anything for. We are addressing more of Drew's health concerns and we will start to be more open going forward. Not because we feel we owe that to anyone, but because it's part of our journey and that's what I've always been here to share. We have ambitions, goals, and we can't wait to see what's next for our family. We have a doctor's appointment set up for Drew this week. And this is coming from a lady who's like come on social media to complain. I'll see if I can find it, but she said something like, I don't understand men that will, sit and play video games instead of spending time with their family, stuff like that. Like, that sounds like it comes from a place of understanding, a personal place, right? I don't know. Just to me, it seems like Stephanie thinks that she's being this great partner by being almost like permissive and subservient, but she's not. Like, I think my partner and I, not to toot our own horns, but I think we're a good example of being, supportive to a reasonable degree. We know that we can lean on each other if we need to, and we know that we can rely on the other person to sort of like encourage us to be better and to choose better, right? Encourage us to choose better for ourselves or for the family. And that might feel to Stephanie like sort of what she's doing, but really what she's doing is enabling this detrimental lifestyle for herself and for her children. She's not encouraging her man to do better, and that's what he needs. And that's what she needs from him too. Like, the energy needs to go both ways. And I mean, listen, I'm not saying that Drew has to go to work by any means. If he really can't, that's okay. That's life. And sometimes health issues really do get in the way. Or sometimes the man just wants to stay home. That's fine. But I don't know. Then maybe Stephanie could? Maybe Stephanie could suck it up and get a job? Because if Stephanie could trust her partner, if she could trust Drew to like get off his ass and get things done during the day, then he could be a stay-at-home house husband, no problems. And then that way the kids can be raised by family, because Stephanie says, I don't want to send my kids to daycare and that's why I don't want to go to work. Okay, well, you go to work and your family can still raise them. And Drew can also still that way contribute to like filming videos, and she can just voice over and edit and upload them later if she still wants to be the one running the account. Then they can have their cake and eat it too, in a sense. But there just seems to be like no problem solving when it comes to the Jenkins. They're not putting their heads together to achieve anything. In that household between Stephanie and Drew, there is only permission. Drew permits Stephanie to blast their personal business all over the internet, and Stephanie permits Drew to do nothing and then congratulates him for it. And it's kind of sad because it seems like everything that Stephanie has loved historically, like her kids and her cats and even possibly her mother, which we'll speak about a little bit, have fallen to like second place, third place, even last place ever since Drew entered the picture. And it's honestly sad to watch. Like, I accidentally did a bit of a deep dive, and I think this video might turn out to be way longer than I anticipated it to be based on how long I've been filming. But Stephanie just seemed so much happier before her relationship with Drew. And so did her 2 girls. Like, back then, her cats looked healthy, her kids seemed like they were flourishing, and they slept in beds. They did. And Stephanie even like put aside time and money to make small home improvements. And this is when I'm pretty sure she was living with her mother, who Stephanie has since claimed as abusive. But it's just like, if you scroll through Stephanie's older posts, which I wouldn't recommend, it took a really long time, but you can actually witness her becoming like increasingly insufferable after meeting Drew and after moving in with him. And I don't know if that's because they've been using drugs, because I keep away from that stuff. I'm not super educated on it, but sometimes it does seem like it, and internet users do speculate that. Or, you know, I don't know if she's just like melded herself to Drew so much that she's sort of adopted some of his mannerisms and his speech and his attitude, but something happened. Something changed. And you can also see in 2024 when she gave up on making her own content, like content based around her, and she started using her kids to just big on the platform. Then cut to when Stephanie finally went viral and the vibe changed drastically. And Stephanie is definitely questionable in some ways, all on her own. Like, I don't mean to absolve her of any responsibility here, because she is constantly like, she has some things. Like, she's always going on about how superior black genes are. So, like, she said she could clean out the litter boxes while pregnant, which puts you at risk of toxoplasmosis, which is why if you're pregnant, you are not supposed to clean out litter boxes, because she said she was pregnant with a mixed baby who has superior genes, and so she didn't have to worry about that. Or she implied that, there was this video that she implied that her stepson, who was either black or mixed, I'm not sure, because I haven't actually seen his mother, but she implied that he has fetal alcohol syndrome, but said, thankfully, he doesn't suffer too much because of his superior genes. Not to mention, she said a few times that she manifested a mixed baby, which is like, I don't know. Like, you didn't just manifest a baby. It's got to be a mixed baby. Why? I don't know if I get that. But Stephanie has also said that she doesn't feel like her white genes truly align with her, and TikTok filters apparently always agree with her. And that really resonates with her deeply. And she's also gone on rants like this about white women.
Random rant time. I've decided that's gonna be my motherfucking thing. Random rants, okay? Listen, this doesn't want to stand. That's gonna be another thing I'm gonna rant about, bitch. Listen, okay, because I am damn lucky to be home, not out in that work field, and I give that all to my man, and I'm so motherfucking grateful. But apparently, just because it's not my workplace, that don't mean that I'm not gonna bring that drama home. Because tell me why, when my man tells me something about his boss or his coworkers, I want to whoop their fucking asses more than I ever want to whoop anybody's. What the fuck? Man, I'm over here thinking about like some medieval fucking weaponry. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, bitch, you tell me when your boss is over there, baby. I can't walk my butt over there. I got some stuff. I got some juju to throw her way. Why? And tell me why, when it's a woman in power, they're always bitches and they're always fucking white. They're always white. What the hell? Why would you say that? You're white. No, okay. Yes, I'm white, but I'm not white. You know what the fuck I'm talking about. Them entitled bitches, okay? Man, woo! I'm gonna go ice my face.
Another thing that rubs me the wrong way about Stephanie is her mistrust of doctors.
This one's for all you greedy fucking doctors. Because listen to me, I know y'all got in those fucking positions because you're like, I want to make money. I want to help people. Bullshit, y'all want to help people. Bull motherfucking shit. Okay? Because if people aren't paying out the ass for insurance, if you have state health insurance, or if you're just, you know, you look like you don't pay out the ass for insurance, these doctors know it, and they treat you like shit. And they don't give a fuck. They will make you wait 4 months for an appointment that should have been done a month ago. They will not check your blood when you go in. When did that become a thing? When did it not become routine for a yearly checkup to consist of blood work? I have not had blood work done since I got back on state insurance 5 years ago. What? That's how they think people who have state insurance deserve to be treated. And I want you all to consider this, because and probably nobody's even gonna listen to this, but I don't give a fuck, because I'm still gonna make a point. I worked in so many old people homes, so many retirement homes, so many doctors' asses I had to wipe. You lose your mind. You reach a certain age, and it doesn't matter what you did during the age that you had your mind, because when you're dependent on someone to wipe your ass and feed you, it doesn't matter that you're doctor status, that you had that label on your name. Nobody remembers. Nobody calls you doctor. They call you Ed, and they say, Ed, stop spitting on me. You want to have respect? Then maybe you should be giving it throughout your fucking life. Maybe you should be treating your patients with a little decency, because I promise you, your retirement fund runs the fuck out in America. America doesn't want you to fucking retire happily. You're gonna end up in a home with tons of workers who have state insurance and who are mistreated by your doctor asses. And they have to take care of you. I've had so many lawyers, so many doctors that were my patients. Did I mistreat them? No, I treated everybody the same. But they never did for us, did they?
Someone that I know, I will say, holds like similar beliefs to Stephanie as far as disdain for medical practitioners goes, and it breaks my heart because they'll avoid getting medical treatment if they can help it. And they have this attitude of suspicion towards healthcare workers, a lot of whom are like genuinely in the practice because they want to help others. It's just a sad perspective to approach things with, I guess. And I mean, like, there are so many midwives who go into that field because they are genuinely passionate about providing the best experience for expecting parents. And, you know, they find so much joy in helping new life enter the world. But Stephanie, because she doesn't trust doctors, made a point to wait out labor at home with her most recent baby and only head to the hospital last minute, and she wound up having the baby in the car on the way to the hospital. And I get, like, I totally understand everyone has different wants, I guess, when it comes to the birthing process, and everyone can make their own decisions, but personally, I would want to know that my newborn had, like, quick access to medical care, just in case something were to happen that was out of my control. And this might just be me, but the way that Stephanie distrusts medication so much makes me question whether her kids get like proper medical care when they're sick. Because natural remedies are great and all, but there's really no point in letting your child like suffer through a sickness that just popping a harmless pill every day for a week can fix. It makes me wonder what information these people, like people who don't trust the medical system even a little bit, it makes me wonder what information they think they have that medical practitioners don't. I don't know. I understand that blindly trusting things is not something everyone is comfortable with doing, and I definitely don't want to like ruffle any feathers. I understand that sometimes there are reasons to be suspicious, but I just question what sources people are looking at and why they're trusting them. You know, why are they trusting the sources that they're looking at instead of licensed healthcare workers? It would concern me, right? It concerns me. Where are you getting your information from? Is it safe? And the reason that kind of concerns me as far as Stephanie's kids are concerned is because Stephanie said that she used essential oils in place of actual like medical treatment for her cat's issues, right? And I'm pretty sure Stephanie also admitted that they had like a long-standing flea infestation in their apartment, and also that the kids had head lice for a long time as well. So that makes me wonder, like, is she avoiding using chemical products even if they're proven to help with issues like that, in favor of using, you know, stuff like essential oils? Because Stephanie, she doesn't strike me as the type of mother who wouldn't care about her children being uncomfortable, infested with lice, or, you know, being sick. But she does strike me as the type of person that would fail to educate herself on the benefits of standard medical care and default to other treatments, less helpful treatments. I don't know, but on the topic of Stephanie, I also feel like she has like a textbook victim mindset, and that just sort of makes her feel like, and it's so obvious to me that she feels this way, that she feels like life happens to her and like she deserves handouts from other people. Like here, she says something about how her family hasn't stepped up to welcome their family, her family of 7, into their own apartment with open arms. And then she follows that up by saying, oh, life has just hit them. You know, life has just hit the Jenkins family so hard.
I keep asking, what would the plan be if you guys don't find housing? Okay, I don't know of another plan besides getting a hotel and getting a storage unit, because even the fact that I have 4 siblings who have housing out here and a mother, none of them have offered for us to stay with them until we figure out some kind of situation. Nor would I even want to stay with any of them because they haven't been here through any of this shit, okay? That's just my siblings and my family. The situation was reversed. They would be receiving support from me, and that's how it's always been. The one sibling that would maybe do something about trying to help us out is in Florida, my oldest brother. And he'd be trying to be like, come to Florida. I don't know how much of that video you made it through, but if you made it through this far, I appreciate you listening to me ramble. And I really don't want that to come off as me talking shit about my siblings, because it's not on them to like rescue the situation. I'm just saying if the situation were reversed, life hit them the same way, I'm here for them. Always. And my goal is to, this is just a stepping stone. We will get past this.
And I think that's just the perfect demonstration of this sort of like victim mindset thought pattern. Because she's like, not only did I not cause this situation, nobody is helping me fix this situation that I totally did not cause. She also seems prone to believing conspiracy theories or even creating her own conspiracy theories to explain, say, like her lack of success on TikTok and her lack of success in life. But as far as TikTok goes, for example, she said that like only wealthy people with aesthetically pleasing lifestyles can find success on TikTok, because this is what she said, that some creators are making amazing content despite having, you know, less easy on the eye surroundings, and they're just not blowing up like these aesthetic creators are.
I have a theory about the whole like verified users or people on TikTok and just people who get a lot of followers in general. If you don't have like a crazy amounts of aesthetically pleasing shit in your house, and furthermore, if you don't have a house that looks like maybe you pay more than $2,000 a month for it, or rent an apartment for $2,000 or more, people don't pay attention. People don't want nothing to do with minorities. I mean, because I keep seeing people that definitely deserve a following, have great talent, have amazing fucking content, but because their house doesn't look like they spend a lot of money on it, because they don't have everything matching in their video, it's not aesthetically pleasing, nobody pays no mind. Nobody pays no mind. You guys are shallow, super shallow, like seriously, because people who have money don't need more. People who don't have money, those are the ones who need more. And we should be supporting each other, building people up who don't have, not people who already have. I'm sorry, but y'all don't need more. It makes me vomit that people are like, look at my $2 million house, starving people everywhere, but my $2 million house. Like, that will never be me. If I make like loads and loads of money somehow, which I feel like I will someday, it's going back to everybody. It's not just staying in my pocket, furthering my literal what? When you're dead, it's gone. It's not yours anymore. It's your kid's debt. It's your kid's thing to deal with. Why stock up on shit and share your, like, and I get that people are like, well, they've worked towards that, and they deserve to flaunt that they have money that could feed other people. You're not gonna ever get me to agree with that. I will never agree that people who have a lot of money and are greedy deserve to be greedy. No. Trump is a greedy motherfucker. Y'all want to say that he deserves to be where he's at? He's nasty. Rich people, they're not all bad. They're just not good. Hilarious. But still, I was gonna end it there, but then I was like, oh shit, you know, like, I feel like I used the wrong word. I meant to say like a lower class, because like I just know people, if I even get anybody saying that shit, are gonna be like, yo, you said minority, like, you don't know what you're talking about, you're not a minority. Like, just because I'm a white girl don't mean I didn't grow up poor as fuck. Poor as fuck. Still poor as fuck. So I wasn't trying to say I'm a minority, but lower class citizen, I know a lot about that.
And we've spoken about this in our past 2 videos now, but realistically, if you're really truly making quality content, then your aesthetic shouldn't matter as long as you're making it work for you. You know what I mean? I think that Stephanie is just an example of someone who hopped on social media because they thought they were boarding the get rich quick train, only to find out that it's not really that easy. And then instead of being willing to like adjust and improve their content, they just choose to wallow in self-pity and lean into theories that the platform is simply against them. And that could be because their passion for creating just isn't really there. You know, they wanted to come to the platform to earn an income, and that's it. You know, they thought it was easy money. Or it could be because they just genuinely, they don't understand what needs to be done, and maybe they honestly can't be bothered putting in the time and effort that it takes to learn what needs to be done. But either way, when human beings don't understand something, they tend to start looking for external factors to blame. Like someone who doesn't understand how to go viral, they might say that the algorithm is totally working against them, when in reality, it's them that are not working with the algorithm. It's a very like self-centered train of thought, you'll notice. Like it's the world revolves around them, when really the world doesn't care about them, which is like it's kind of a mean thing to say, but you are in charge of your life, right? Because nobody else cares about your life as much as you do. Like here in this video, Stephanie, I came across this one where she talks about shadow banning, getting shadow banned, which is something that a lot of people who just aren't making great content default to, like, oh, people aren't seeing my video because I'm being shadow banned. But this is what she said about it.
Just a friendly reminder that even if you're not enjoying the video, you can just kind of like mute it and let it go. But if you care about like people's followers, don't just watch like 2 seconds of the video, like it, and scroll on. You're shadow banning a ton of people. including more. I get no followers because no one wants to watch a full video. My videos aren't that long, honey.
And you'll notice that rather than her solution to people not watching her content being, I should learn how to make better content that people want to watch the whole way through so that the algorithm will like my videos more. Her solution is for people to watch every single video they come across on TikTok in its entirety, but just to mute it if they don't like it, which makes no sense. Like, she literally said, I'm not getting any followers because people don't want to watch my videos the whole way through. And she didn't once stop to think, that sounds like a me problem to address, actually. And then she resorted to begging on TikTok so that, you know, she could go viral and give her kids more opportunities in life. Because posting shitty dance videos didn't immediately do it for her. She didn't immediately go viral for that. So she started, please. It's a choice, you know? She made a choice. And like we spoke about already a little when it comes to doctors in the medical system, Stephanie carries this sort of like suspicious, conspiratorial, conspirational, is that a word? Conspiracy theorist sort of victim mindset throughout her life. It's not just isolated to social media. It rolls into Stephanie's views on the medical system like we spoke about, but the government, working, and even, surprise, surprise, the school system. Shocking, I know.
I've been curious. How long has anybody lived in America? I've lived in America my whole life. And my whole life I've had to deal with random increases on prices throughout the stores, random increases on prices with gas, recessions, the government throwing nasty shit at us constantly, a new virus, 8,000 fucking murders that shouldn't be happening, police brutality. Dude, it's non-fucking stop. It's never motherfucking ending. And I'm done letting it depress me. That's what they want. They want you to live in that state of fear, in that state of like, what the fuck am I gonna do tomorrow when it's paying rent day? It's time to pay rent and I don't have no fucking money in my account. Like, bro, they know that. They're all sitting in their fucking $2 million homes comfortably. And they're not gonna change that anytime soon. They're not gonna change our comfortability and how hard we have to work to be comfortable, because it doesn't affect them. It doesn't affect our fucking government. Not one bit. So don't let it affect you, honey, okay? I break apart in a million pieces seeing all these videos, especially of moms, just breaking because they don't know how they're gonna pay for their home for their kids. Dads too. It's like, you know, my man, for example, he be busting his freaking butt trying to pick up all these hours. Like, every time someone calls out, my man's there because he wants to make sure we're good. Man, it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't have to be like that. But it is. It's a reality. And the fact is, I'm just done letting it be something that makes me feel like I'll never get ahead. Because I will get ahead. And you will too. And even if you don't make $1 million in your lifetime, that's okay. You made it. Look back 2 years ago. Can you think about something crazy that was happening that you really thought you were never going to get over? And you're here. You got through it. That's going to be the same case with what you're going through today. Just try not to let this nasty, corrupt society that we live in eat you up, because it's trying to. You gotta fight back. You gotta be better. You are better. We're all better. We just have to keep pushing and be ready, because they throwing stuff at us every day and they're not done.
This isn't me complaining because I'm not the type to complain about being a parent. It's me trying to give a little more insight to what it's like to be a family of 7 in a 1-bedroom apartment. And I know y'all think that that's completely our fault. And the fact that you don't want to turn around and blame America's downfall on the people who are actually in fault for that is why the fuck it's never going to change.
It's just everything is working against her and her family in her mind. That's how she's seeing it. And as long as she maintains that mindset, unfortunately, her family will never find true success in life because she will never assert control. She will never take things into her own hands because even though it's well within her reach, you know, to change her own destiny, she doesn't think that she can grasp it. She can see it right there, but she doesn't even think to take it, even though she sees here.
Prepare to see videos from Drew as well. For the life of me, I don't know why that's just gonna steam a bunch of you when you literally could just do what makes you happy too. Why is that so hard? I wake up and choose miserable every day and then you turn around and blame other people for it. What the fuck? I thought we were the creator of our own destiny, okay? Bye-bye now.
Like, oh, are we? Then act like it. I just don't understand. And honestly, I do have some sympathy for Stephanie because I know someone who does tend to think this way, and it seems to me that this mindset is often born from like genuine struggle and from sort of a lack of true understanding about how the world works. So I guess a lack of education, well-rounded education. Adrian Furnham wrote on bi.no, they said people who believe in conspiracies are often poorly educated and unsuccessful in their careers. Conspiracy theories are a way for these individuals to find a sense of meaning in the face of the difficulties they experience. In a study of over 400 people, he finds that conspiracy thinkers see bad things happening to good people and conclude that the world is an unfair place. This leads some on society's margins to look for patterns in the injustice and to identify what they think are hidden or secret reasons for events. It's an illusion of control over something that cannot be controlled. For example, in believing it's possible to take a stand against COVID or government control by refusing harmful or unnecessary vaccines, when the far more mundane truth is that we're facing a very difficult situation for which nobody is entirely to blame, and which we must all work together to get through. In a separate study of almost 500 people, Furnham finds that conspiracy thinkers may suffer from some well-known personality disorders. They are typically odd or eccentric people and often self-centered. They believed it is the world that is wrong or out of line, rather than themselves. In addition to a general distrust of society and authority, they are often socially awkward and tend to withdraw from other people, Furnham says. They also tend to be overly emotional and dramatic, thinking in inconsistent, unpredictable ways, for example, by accepting some facts while ignoring others. Poor education and a lack of understanding of complex subjects doesn't help. Educated people in general tend to be more skeptical and less attracted to popular theories. Providing adequate training and education is an important measure to combat conspiracy thinking. Conspiracy theories harm society because people use them to justify bad actions, yet getting frustrated with your conspiracist friend, shouting at them, or ignoring them won't change their mind. Try to remain open and listen to what people are saying. Show them that you take them seriously and avoid talking down to them. You may not be able to convince everyone, but listening and trying to understand is a step in the right direction. So often, conspiracies do not reflect logical thought, but they are born from a psychological human need for things like control and understanding, and as frustrating as it can be, conspiracies are a coping mechanism for some people. And for others, conspiracy theories are invented and believed in due to disordered thinking. They're a product of personality disorders. And in saying that, I do respect that Stephanie genuinely tries to remain positive and to be motivational in spite of her disastrous thinking, because in her mind, everything is working against her, but she's like, I've just got to keep trucking on, I've got to keep smiling. But I lose some of that sympathy and that respect that I have when Stephanie, she fails to believe that her experience in life is very much of her own making. It's like not even a thought in her mind that that could be a possibility. Take this quote, for example.
People who have money don't need more. People who don't have money, those are the ones who need more. And we should be supporting each other, building people up who don't have, not people who already have. I'm sorry, but y'all don't need more. If I make like loads and loads of money somehow, which I feel like I will someday, it's going back to everybody. It's not just staying in my pocket.
I mean, I totally understand the mindset of sharing wealth and benefiting your community. I hold that same value, but people who do have money absolutely need more money. That's called living. Actually, not even. It's called surviving. I mean, if Stephanie made $1 million next month and shared every cent of it, I mean, that would be very diplomatic, but it would also be very irresponsible, because when you have money, you still need to budget, because you do still need money. And that money you have is still finite. You can't just spend it forever. Once you spend it, it's gone. It's just like, in most instances, people, they don't make money and they don't retain money, definitely, by being silly with their money. Wealthy people are usually smart with their money, or they hire people to be smart with their money. And while it is a lovely thought that the very wealthy could support the less fortunate to make the world a better place, I feel like some of the people that Stephanie is referring to when she talks about these rich people might not actually be like you money rich. I think they're just like can afford to pay rent rich. Like, sure, they could be more financially well off than she is, or maybe they could just be living a very different lifestyle in the sense that, you know, they're child free at this point in their lives, and so they can spend more money on themselves or their aesthetic. But either way, they are probably working honestly working for that money. Like, most likely they have put the work in to be in the position that they're in where they do have some disposable income and so on. And I think that's what Stephanie doesn't realize. She thinks that she can just like sit around and get donations from people without putting any deeper thought into how those people are making the money that they donate to her. Like, the people donating to the Jenkins family, buying stuff off their Amazon wish list and things like that, they're not like the evil rich 1%. They're working class people. I think Stephanie has just been so focused for so long on going viral on TikTok so that she can finally come into money, because she thinks that money should come easily. Like, you should just be able to snap your fingers and have money appear. And while that would be nice, and it is essentially kind of what she's been doing for the past couple of months, it's not everyone's reality. She has this idea that like everyone who is not living below the poverty line is this magical wizard that constantly trips and falls into pots of gold, when in reality, they just work and probably spend their money wisely. I will mention that Stephanie also has a past that I don't feel totally comfortable digging too much into, but it has been a point of discussion online, so I want to mention it. And essentially, Stephanie is married to someone. Like, she's not yet divorced. And this guy, her husband, is currently in jail. And I think the story behind that is he sexually assaulted his mother when he was like 16 maybe. And then he got convicted for CSA later down the line when they were married. And as someone who was a victim of CSA and whose mother was in an abusive relationship with the man who abused me and was told at some point a little bit about his past crimes, like it was at least mentioned, I don't know. I recognize that these situations can be nuanced. And so I think my views on the whole situation might come off as a little twisted maybe as far as the general public are concerned. But very similarly, my father also sort of spoke about viewing his mother in a sexual way as a teenager, but I can't remember exactly if anything happened there. And obviously my father also went on to almost be convicted of CSA. He just gave himself the death sentence before he could get to court. But either way, just because, you know, I have that personal experience of seeing my mother suffer so much, I mean, I don't feel right about calling Stephanie out. A lot of people have been calling Stephanie out for being married to and having kids with such an awful man, and I get that because there is something like viscerally icky about sexual predators. Obviously, like, they shouldn't be supported, they shouldn't be allowed to have partners or to reproduce or to generally be out and about in society, but I don't know anything about Stephanie's relationship with this guy, so I don't want to jump to blame Stephanie for making poor choices or whatever if she really did find herself in an abusive relationship with this man. Because I mean, like, my dad was super charming towards my mother until he locked my mum down, right? Until he'd like moved her far away from family and told her she wasn't allowed to work anymore and had control. She didn't know what she was getting herself into. It's not like he disclosed to her right when they met that he was almost convicted of CSA by his previous family and that he was forced to leave the country to avoid charges. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't just drop that bomb. She didn't know that. And I'm assuming that Stephanie probably didn't know this guy's tendencies when they met. Maybe things got revealed throughout their relationship, but honestly, things can be really, really good until they're really, really bad. So it's hard to say exactly what happened. Well, I mean, we can definitely say that Stephanie does not have the best taste in men, but the last thing that anyone that is broken free from an abusive relationship needs to hear is that it was their fault they were in it in the first place. Because that may be true, but realistically it's not helpful. It's not a helpful thing to say. We need to be empowering these people to make better decisions. You know, we don't need to be tearing them down for making poor decisions in the past, especially because they made a great decision to leave that abusive relationship. It takes a lot of strength to do that. And so now it's important that they keep being encouraged to fend for themselves in that way. Like, if you knock a victim down like that, they're not going to improve. They need that support. Because their views on the world and on themselves have already been like reshaped in a negative way by their abuser so often. So they need to be uplifted and shown what they're actually capable of. And to me, it actually makes perfect sense that someone like Stephanie, who grew up poor with a mother that apparently did not prioritize feeding her children and possibly didn't prioritize her children at all, and then, you know, escaped that life and ended up in an abusive relationship. It makes so much sense to me why Stephanie has ended up in the position that she's ended up in. Like, you'll notice she feeds her kids really well, but she's poor. She doesn't truly strive for more in life. She accepts the bare minimum in her relationships, and she maintains depressing thought patterns because that's what she knows. And rather than aiming for more, she's settled for familiarity. She's settled for what's familiar. And she does want to continue living in that bubble of familiarity because she's used to, I guess, being crammed into a small space with 6 other people. And I guess because space has never proven to be a deterrent to Stephanie as far as having more kids goes. She recently brought up that her and Drew, their dream, their goal, their aspiration is to buy a little plot of land and move into a tiny home. And not when they're like, you know, when all the kids have flown the nest. No, next step. That's their next goal. And I'll admit, I heard that and my jaw, it dropped.
A little over a week ago today, I had a dishwasher that was somewhat working. I had a kitchen sink, I had a stove, I had a kitchen. Yeah, it was small, but it was more than what we're working with now. And a lot of you wanted to put down that situation that we were living in. I mean, albeit it was definitely not ideal for our size of a family we have now, but there was a lot of positivity about it too. And I think that's just because we had really spent the time to make that situation work for our family. While we were packing up the U-Haul, Drew and I noticed we really did have that place organized to fit for our family. Drew and I both really like the concept of a tiny home as long as it has well organization to it, but ideally said tiny home would be on a plot of land. Also, the tiny home that we envision has a space and a nook for everybody. Everybody's provided their own little private area. We still get to remain the close-knit family that we are. And that's just a little bit about our goals and how we try to stay positive in every situation we're in. Okay, bye-bye now.
Because, listen, it's great to have dreams, especially realistic dreams. It's obviously not a bad thing to live within your means. But there are two issues here. For one, you still have to work to afford homes, regardless of their size. And plots of land, at least in my experience, like my knowledge, they do not come cheap either. Like, I feel like you'd be better off investing in a fixer-upper that you can slowly improve while you stay home all day anyway. And for two, that is just dismal, right? People need space. Like, there was an uproar on the internet not long ago about van lifers cramming like 4 kids into a van and having them sleep on the floor or like sleep with their nose touching the ceiling, because people need more than just a nook. It's no way to live to be like, oh, I pulled the curtain and now they've got privacy, even though they can probably feel my breath blowing on the curtain from the other side of the van. Especially teenagers, like, I can promise you want your teenager to have privacy. You want them to have their own like personal quiet space well away from family, because otherwise they will probably kill someone. Like, they'll go crazy at you or in their own head. I mean, just imagine renting a nook in a house instead of a room. You're like, oh, nook for rent. That ideally would never happen, right? I can't even picture that, because a nook is not a living space. I just don't understand the train of thought, I guess, that they're having. Like, they want to be a close-knit family. Okay, you can be a close-knit family and live in a reasonably sized house. I promise you. You can have like board game nights in the living room, movie nights. You can sit at the dinner and eat table together. But you know what I mean? Being close-knit doesn't mean that every time you take a step, you almost stand on a family member. That's not being close-knit. That's called being crammed. That's called being sardines. But for now, of course, even having a tiny home is nothing but a dream for the Jenkins. Because despite knowing that they were going to be evicted for quite some time, they didn't bother to plan or to make any arrangements in advance, perhaps, no. Then, a week or two before their move-out day, they realised, shit, we can't find another apartment, so they called Second Chance Housing. And then they came to TikTok to complain that their process was too long. But of course that was not the Jenkins' fault, because they waited until they'd exhausted all our other options and had no backup plan in sight before they reached out to the service. No. It's the service's fault, because the customer service sucks. It just makes me facepalm. And by the way, people pointed this out, but in the video of Stephanie like stressing about their situation in the kitchen, you can hear Drew in the background shouting at his PS5.
It really just sounded like the girl just switched up her voice, switched up her accent a little bit, and I was talking to the same person.
Isn't that charming? But then, continuing their lack of forethought and planning, the Jenkins decided to pack everything in their apartment up the day before move-out day. And Stephanie was like, man, I didn't think it would be this hard, being just a few weeks postpartum, but man, I'm struggling. How you think? No shit. And then just like that, they were off to be homeless with their 5 kids. Because both of the Jenkins parents refused to think ahead, budget, or to welcome the struggle of working or living separately for some time into their own lives. It would be just too hard, of course. And it's just so frustrating to watch. Like, I'm just so upset for these kids. Look, I think we can all agree that our parents didn't always make the right choices or the best choices when we were growing up, because parents are going through life for the first time too. But I'll be damned if, like, my mother in particular, she always made choices with my best interest in mind growing up, even if it didn't always pan out that way. She would struggle for me and she would fight for me, and that's something I'm very grateful for, but it's also what parents should do. I mean, even my father, when he moved into his council flat, he had like this tiny 1-bedroom council flat, and I would come over to sleep there for 2 nights every second weekend. And I had the whole bedroom to myself when he wasn't being a creep and wasn't in my bedroom anyway. But that to me does just make sense, that the kids would have the bedroom. Like, it makes sense. And also note, I did have a bed at my father's house, even though I only slept there every second fortnight for 2 nights. The Jenkins kids slept at that apartment that they had every single day, and they were literally sleeping, some of them on foam pads on the floor. And might I remind you, he was abusive. My father was abusive. He didn't care about people in the way he should have cared. So what are the Jenkins parents doing? It's just nuts to me, and it's gutting that for so long Stephanie has been talking about providing growth for their children, and that just doesn't seem to actually be in the cards for them at all. Another touchy subject around Stephanie is the fact that her mother has actually offered to take her and the kids in, and Stephanie has rejected her offer. She said like her mother is abusive. She said living with her would be traumatic for her and for the kids. And she said, my mother is not welcome into my life or my children's lives.
These past couple years, I've gone through a tremendous spiritual growth and changeover. I don't know how else to put that. But it's definitely made me come to the realization that my family has a lot of codependency and toxicity that I just don't want anything. I don't want to be a part of it. You know, and it all kind of centers around my mother, who is, I've kind of out of my life. But all of my siblings except my oldest brother, they all live in the same complex as my mom, and they all just continue to feed off each other throughout their adulthood. Now, since I've separated myself from that and I've grown a lot in the past couple of years, they just don't even know how to communicate with me, and interactions with them have been so awkward. My mom struggles with borderline personality disorder, and that has affected me my entire life. But as an adult, it seems to affect my children more, which I'm not about.
She's also said that the kids are happy as they are, staying with Stephanie and Drew. And I'm not going to say that Stephanie is making the wrong choice for her children if she is truly refusing to expose them to an abuser. Like, I don't know their business, and I don't want to know their business. I definitely don't want to probe. I think we already know too much as it is. But I do hope that Stephanie has made the most responsible choice for her children in that instance. It's just that she doesn't have a good track record of doing that, so it makes it hard to believe. Because the fact is, and this is why I say that the Jenkins are failing their children, it's just that they keep saying, oh, but the kids are happy. Yeah, sure they are. They're happy right now. But they don't know different. The thing is, like, kids are resilient and kids are adaptable. They can survive. Children can survive remarkable things. And that's because children have very little control over their lives. And so they have these inbuilt survival instincts that allow them to last in these shitty situations. But that doesn't mean that they won't grow up and look back on their childhood with sadness. A child can seem happy, but that doesn't mean that they're thriving. It means that they're surviving. And listen, I don't doubt that these kids, they love their parents. I'm sure they do. And I also don't doubt that they would prefer to stay living with their parents if possible. A lot of children would prefer that. But as children, they probably also trust their parents implicitly to make the right decisions for them in the short term so that they can prosper in the long term, even if it's hard, even if it feels wrong. And the Jenkins parents are not doing that. And that's why I think that one day their kids might find themselves growing and looking back on their lives and thinking like, man, what happened there? You know what I mean? Like, that should not have happened. And luckily, to help their children process everything eventually, it's all documented in full colour. Daily installments on Stephanie's TikTok account. It's for everyone on planet Earth to see. How thoughtful, and it'll be so helpful in the future. I just feel like even though the Jenkins can seem happy enough now, these events are going to really stick with them as they grow up. And when they look back, they're going to see the situation a little more clearly through a more mature lens, and they're going to think, my parents failed me. I was reliant on them and they failed me. And is that what Stephanie wants? Is that what Drew wants? I just don't get it. It's like they're not willing to let their kids suffer a little bit by, you know, sending them to live with their grandparents or explaining to them that they're going to have to spend less time with their parents because they're working now in order for the children to have an overall better life. They don't want that little bit of discomfort for a whole lot of benefit. So I guess it's not that Stephanie and Drew are failing their kids in the everyday sense of providing them with food and shelter and love, but they are failing them in the overall sense that they're not willing to do what it needs to be done in order to improve their living situation. And not because they're incapable or because life knocked them down briefly, but because they choose not to. Like, Drew used to work hard, apparently, according to him. And unfortunately, he was still struggling to make ends meet, and that's not fair. And I understand being, you know, disappointed and feeling run down because of that, but at least there was an effort being made. And Stephanie, she said she's worked before. She's worked plenty. Like, she's worked in retirement homes. She's spoken about that a few times. I will say that Stephanie has shared quite a few times that she has social anxiety, and that can make going out in public, it can be a bit of a hurdle, you know? But I also have social anxiety. I had it really, really, really bad when I was young. Like, I couldn't breathe next to people because I was worried they might hear me inhaling and expelling air from my lungs. Literally scared of everything. But when I had to go out and provide for myself, I did it. And I was lucky to be in a supportive workplace, but still, I went out and I made myself money because I knew I had to. And I'm not going to say it was easy. It's definitely easier for me to stay at home. Like, it was definitely stressful, but it paid my bills, and honestly, it made me a better person. Sometimes the hardest things in life are the things that you really need to do the most. And I kind of understand Stephanie's drive to be successful on TikTok when I relate it to my drive to be successful on YouTube, because part of that is related to the fact that it's very comfortable for me to stay at home and not have to worry about interacting with people directly, and I think maybe that plays a part for Stephanie as well. But if my family needed money, I'd be out the door and I'd be fighting my fears and I'd be getting a job. That's what I don't understand. Like, you're a fully grown adult. These people, like, I think Drew's 35 and Stephanie's 30. Like, you can go be an adult and get a job. I don't know. I just feel like their attitudes are not a good look, and also their priorities are clearly not in the right place, and that's not a good look either. Because you find money for the things that you prioritize, because you prioritize them. And it seems like their family, like their children, are just not on the receiving end of any of the money that their parents make. So I genuinely don't know where the money goes. I don't know if they genuinely just don't have enough or what. I can't comment on their budget, but like something's up, you know what I mean? I do wonder, I think like education is very important, mental health is very important, and I do wonder, just based on their backgrounds, whether Drew and Stephanie genuinely know what to do or not.
I'm trying to do the best with what I have and how I know best.
But I just feel at the very least, like, by now, definitely staying in a motel room with their family of 7, they should definitely know that something is wrong. And so they should be like itching, they should be jumping to educate themselves and to do better. That seems like the natural course of action, but it also doesn't seem like it's happening that way. So I guess the issue comes in really with the fact that Drew and Stephanie just don't seem to be interested in learning. They don't care much for change at all, unless the change has a $ attached to it, like pocket change. Drew and Stephanie just, they enjoy wallowing in victimhood and pity and being bailed out by the cruel and mean, but rich viewers of their TikTok page. And I mean, sure, it's awesome when human beings support one another, but that doesn't mean that you can just like sit around doing whatever you want in life, collecting handouts from people who work for what they've got. Like, that's it's no life to lead. And it just seems like Drew and Stephanie think everyone else on planet Earth not only wants to work, but also enjoys a great salary for doing so, for going to work. But that's just not the case. Like, people struggle every day and they do what they don't want to do every day to make ends meet. And they probably, these people going out and working and busting their ass, probably complain less than Drew and Stephanie do. But the problem is that the Jenkins parents aren't working towards success. They're waiting for it, and they're quite literally doing nothing to earn it, and that is so unrealistic, and it's going to get them nowhere, and their poor kids are stuck in the middle of it all. I think overall that what has happened here is that Drew and Stephanie maybe, come from rough backgrounds, and when you couple that with a series of irresponsible decisions that alongside their poor planning spiraled out of control, they've ended up in this really, really deep hole that now they don't know how to get out of. But the thing is that they need to realize in order to really overcome things is that what happened is not life hitting them. What happened is choices that they made. It's like the two of them had 2 separate boats that were sailing along like reasonably smoothly, but then they decided to chop their respective boats in half and super glue them together to make one big conjoined boat. And then they also added more weight onto the boat, and now they're like manning this hodgepodge of ships that is barely being held together, and they're wondering why it's not sailing smoothly anymore. And so what's the ideal then? Honestly, Stephanie and Drew would be working to provide for their family. That's the ideal. They'd be taking control of their lives, and they'd be educating themselves, and they'd be seeking out a lifestyle that suits them to a reasonable degree and doesn't make them miserable, but also benefits their children. That's literally it. I really thought, like, at the start, when the Jenkins were first introduced to our For You pages, I thought, let's give them a chance. Life is hard. We don't know how they ended up here, and we don't truly know how hard they're working to correct the course of their life. But now we know. Yes, life is hard, but the Jenkins are making it harder actively. They're providing a childhood for their children that their children will have to heal from. And they're not wrong that family is important, being there for your kids is important, but so is being a good role model for your children. So is taking care of them truly, like more than their basic everyday needs. I would love personally to see Drew and Stephanie succeed and achieve their dreams and give their children a better life, but unfortunately mindset is important. And the path that they're on is not leading them towards the pot of gold. They're literally walking away from the rainbow and saying, man, I can't wait to reach the pot of gold at the end of this rainbow. Like, the rainbow's back there. Turn around. I will say though, I do hold a little bit of hope. Like, I've had friends stuck in similar situations that eventually broke free from their struggles and are doing much better now. And that didn't happen overnight, because change doesn't happen overnight. And I do hope that with time, the Jenkins will find stability for their children. But right now, I will stand by the fact that the Jenkins parents are sadly failing their children. And I just filmed for like 2 hours. So much for a 30-minute long video. What is wrong with me? I actually don't mean to write scripts this long. I don't even know how I have this much to say about any particular topic. It actually drives me a little bit nuts. Like, girl, do less, say less. But I guess I'll go edit this because it's going to take approximately 7 days and 7 nights to get it done. I really do appreciate you stopping by and spending time with me today. I hope I gave you something fun to listen to while you were doing whatever it is that you might be doing. Please do share any thoughts that you have about this situation, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. I love to yap and I love to see other people's perspectives, so share a hit and take care of yourself. I hope you're having an awesome day. Alright, thank you for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.